International law expert Livingston Weche joins me this hour for more on Mr. President's speech. Talk to us about what stood out for you from his speech and how relevant it is for Nigerians at this time.
Well, Happy New Year, Nigeria, and Happy New Year, world. Mr. President indeed spoke as a statesman. Going through his speech, he exhibited a measure of leadership qualities having to do with empathy and compassion, identifying with Nigerians at this very critical and teeth-gnashing economic condition. One aspect that comes to my mind is his economic recovery plan in keeping with the Renewed Hope agenda. As such, Mr. President has really emphasized his commitment to recover Nigeria and to pull that path towards economic recovery, which will result in my recommendation that some of the programs of Mr. President's administration, the critical areas like economic recovery, should be timelined. Nigerians want to be involved. He has made his speeches very inspiring, but it will be important that Mr. President timeline these programs so as to put his appointed officials on their toes towards the realization of these objectives. Secondly, Mr. President should open up the window to encourage entrepreneurship among young Nigerians. The bottlenecks of the business environment have to be demobilized, because while we are looking for foreign investment, there is the need for Mr. President to also stimulate the local environment towards encouraging Nigerian youths. Now, the oil and gas sector is critical. He referenced the coming on stream of the Dangote and Port Harcourt refinery. It's a very cheering news, but again, what Nigerians are also expecting is that while these refineries come on stream, the production should result in the crashing of petroleum prices. Anything to the contrary will wane the confidence of Nigerians in the administration of Bola Ahmed Tinubu, His Excellency. So that will mean that while we are fighting to recover our oil and gas sector, we should also consider arresting the problem of oil tax.
Indeed, Mr. Weche.
So here now,
quickly, you heard Mr. President also say that the job of building a prosperous nation is not only, that of elective officials. Do you think the role of the citizenry is clear as to, the duty of each Nigerian? And would you say that Nigerians are quite motivated to, do that in the new year?
Yes, Mr. President has made his speech and he has rolled out his plan, which is why I have suggested that these plans should be timelined so citizens can be involved and monitor. Now, the oil and gas sector is critical to our national life in the recovery of our economy, and we have suffered a lot of difficulties in terms of oil theft. So two things I want to recommend in getting citizenship involvement is that the president should consider a legislative intervention to set up what I call Oil and Gas Protection and Enforcement Authority to help mobilize citizens and get them involved in special trainings under that agency towards protecting as well as enforcing the law towards ensuring a robust production within the oil and gas sector and arrest this issue of oil theft in the region. It will go a long way, particularly the aspect of encouraging the artisan refineries program of government. There should be an actionable program of government towards ensuring that the artisan sector of the oil and gas arrangement should be strongly encouraged, because by merely criminalizing that sector, where you have the fire incidents in the Niger Delta, it's not enough if you do not evolve that energy of the citizens towards being involved in the artisan refinery.
Indeed.
Now, Mr. President has also shown a measure of listenership. He has talked about the results and delivery unit. Sometimes in November, I issued a report recommending the setting of a monitoring and evaluation unit of the presidency towards ensuring that appointees of government are able to come to account on the mandates given to them and not just run the trip of celebrating their offices, but delivering results in keeping with Mr. President's mandate of the Renewed Hope agenda. Now, on the issue of security and foreign investment, security is critical because while Mr. President travels around the world to market Nigeria and advertise our potentiality, if the security system is not addressed, it will be sending a wrong signal to foreign investors. So it is my submission that Mr. President may need to rework Nigeria's economic management structure so as to ensure that security appointees are put to task within certain mandates and timelines to achieve certain security metrics in the country. Because the news making the rounds with respect to security conditions are not passing the right signal to attract the needed investment which we are seeking. And that is very, very critical. Now, the aspect of foreign investment is what I want to suggest, that Mr. President should work with the African states in ensuring that Africa begins to engage towards a single currency arrangement, we can have 54 central banks in Africa and none of our currencies are used for inter-African trade.
Hold that thought for a minute, Mr. Wechi. We have news just in. News just in, President Bola Tinubu has now signed the 2024 budget into law. We saw on Saturday the National Assembly, fine-tuning this process, passing the 28.77 trillion naira 2024 budget. And this is in continuation of the January to December budget cycle that began a few years ago under the previous administration. We'll bring you more updates on that story in the course of this bulletin. Mr. Wechi, very quickly, you're talking about what government needs to do to encourage citizen participation, particularly moving on in the new year. But also quickly, before we go, quickly touch on what you think must be done differently now, because we've seen 7 years of this administration. Some would say the welcome party is over, and it's important that Nigerians begin to see the impact of the policy direction of this administration. How long more would you say the Tinubu administration has in this regard?
Now, it's important that the federal government will first of all take the initial bites in guaranteeing that the commitment is there towards recovering Nigeria's almost dead economy, because we must call it the name that it deserves. Our economy is in trouble, it's in crisis. So the budget haven't been passed now. We want timelines to be attached to each program of government so citizens can hold government accountable and also walk along with that program. Because issuing programs without having a target and set goals on these programs will mean that it will give room for excuses as to why maybe this program fails. God forbid. So part of what will be recommended here is that all hands must be on deck. The president should impose a travel ban on himself. In fact, there should be a national travel ban policy on all elected and appointed political office holders in Nigeria. We cannot be saying we want to take the part or throw the part of economic recovery, yet we are borrowing money to buy exotic vehicles for National Assembly members. Some of the foreign engagements of the Nigerian state in foreign nations can be handled and designated to our foreign diplomatic and consular agents, rather than always having hundreds of people with current dollar economy traveling abroad and wasting our money, showing no form of seriousness towards economic recovery. So there should be that commitment by Mr. President, because if this administration fails, it will be called the failed Tinubu administration. I don't want to be a part of a failed Tinubu administration.
Right.
I want to be a part of a successful Tinubu administration, because the success of Tinubu is the success of the rest of Nigerians,
Indeed.
And I look forward to his huge success.
We're also counting on that. Livingston Wechi is an international law expert. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us. Happy New Year.